After 5 years of careful progress, the third triumvir arrives with an ultimatum. But the real battle isn't loud, it's calculated. Compromises by Stephen Meehan.
Where is he?
Caitlin glared at the empty seat, her finger tapping against her desk. Looking up from his papers, Quinn sighed and glanced at his friend.
I'm not surprised, considering Malark knows how much his tardiness annoys you.
Excuse me.
Caitlin's eyes narrowed as her gaze shifted to the other triumvir. Quinn shrugged with a lopsided grin.
Why do you think he's always late?
Is expecting a degree of decorum unreasonable?
It's not. However, if you learn to ignore his antics, he'd stop squandering our precious time.
Caitlin rose and walked over to Quinn, her eyes narrowing when the door flew open. With a glance over her shoulder, she spotted the heavy-set individual waddling into the room. Caitlin huffed as she stalked back to her desk. Before she returned to her seat, the new arrival entered and spoke with a tired voice.
I apologize for being late. A meeting with several concerned citizens occupied me.
Caitlin lifted her pen as she shook her head.
Malark, it's still far too early to discuss the eventual workings of the Federation that'll replace the Larian Federation.
Why's that, my dear?
Malark marched across the room and relieved his legs of the strain of supporting his bulk. Once Malark's carved chair supported his weight, the plump man withdrew a small rectangular rod. He unclipped one end of it and opened the fan. As he began fanning himself, Malark's eyes became harder as he continued.
It's been 5 years since the two of you founded this triumvirate. That question still lacks a satisfactory answer the people are willing to accept. They're more worried about this issue than either of you are prepared to admit.
Malark, there are more pressing concerns we have to deal with.
Quinn shuffled the papers on his desk.
What you're talking about is 15 to 20 years distant.
We disagree on that, Quinn.
Caitlin narrowed her glare on Malark.
And who is we?
Plenty of the population disagrees with you. Besides, they possess the resolve, not to mention the funding, to alter the makeup of this triumvirate.
Malark fanned himself as he offered a smirk to Quinn. He recognized the deliberate threat and looked over at Caitlin. When she noticed Quinn's look, he shook his head. The objection on her lips died as she settled into her seat. Quinn returned his gaze to the pudgy man as he steepled his fingers under his chin.
What do these individuals desire to discuss with us?
We feel that the new colonization ships need to be approved.
Malark swiped his fan onto his desk. Then he tapped the fan on its uncluttered surface.
The final topic we must discuss is the codification regarding the guidelines for the equality of planets. Without those laws secured, the issue will revert to the status quo of the Larian Federation.
Caitlin clenched her fists and released a breath.
You know full well every planet was equal under Larian law.
Maybe,
Malark stated slowly.
It was for some, Caitlin. However, the vast majority got no equality under the law, hence why the great colonization ships were overcrowded.
And you want to ensure the constituents such a law will exist?
Quinn raised his hands and leaned back in his chair. Malark leaned forward, closing his fan.
I do.
You realize we'll have to manufacture more warships to protect the smaller colonization ships as a result.
Quinn tapped a scrap of paper in front of him.
We are aware of that.
Malark inclined his head. He lifted a finger towards the military-minded triumvir and stepped closer.
And for that purpose alone, my group is more than willing to back your proposal to increase the military.
Caitlin's eyes widened as she heard Malark's bald-faced bribe, and her hand moved toward the console. But Quinn silenced her with a sharp motion of his hand.
It would also require backing the work on the platforms.
Malark leaned back into his chair and grinned.
No, those devices are already working.
No, they're not.
Caitlin slammed her hand on her desk, forcing a handful of papers to scatter across the floor.
Platforms of the new design are already used to connect the newer cities.
Malark raised an eyebrow at Caitlin's objection.
Isn't that correct?
Quinn cleared his throat and leaned forward.
Just because they work to connect cities does not guarantee they'll work across solar systems.
They'll perform their jobs.
Malark drove his collapsed fan onto his desk like a judge's gavel. Quinn offered the triumvir a coy smile.
They might work. However, to confirm their functionality, we'll have to shift several resources.
After several tense seconds, Malark gave a reluctant nod.
Fine, if we agree to start deliberations on the new colonization ships and the equality of planets, I'll agree to your proposals.
That's fine.
Quinn nodded and offered a half-hearted salute.
Excellent.
Malark clapped his hands as his lips curled into a smile. With a groan, the triumvir clambered to his feet and made his way out of the shared office.
I'll update my backers with the brilliant news.
Of course.
Quinn said as Caitlin stared at him, outrage burning behind her eyes. Once the triumvir was gone, she leaped to her feet and rushed to Quinn's desk, slamming her fists upon it.
Why'd you agree to that?
We surrendered nothing valuable in this agreement. We secured what we needed, exercising no lever of government that might backfire.
Quinn exhaled, rose and walked to the front of his desk and turned her to face him.
I just wonder why he was so insistent on having the conversations.
Caitlin walked back to her desk and sat on its edge.
Does it matter?
Caitlin, our sole concession was a simple conversation.
She wanted to scream in frustration, but Quinn silenced her with a finger.
We promised to have the conversation. He vowed to allow our initiatives to expand.
Caitlin's laughter filled the room as she applauded.
I suppose I should start listening to your advice.
With that, our story concludes. I hope you've enjoyed today's reprieve from your daily grind. If you like the vibe, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Because every bit helps get this channel spread to those who require a momentary chance to unwind. I'll see you for the next tale, my friends. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. But why not keep the rhythm going? Pick one of the videos on screen and settle in for another moment of escape. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and tap the bell to get notified when new tales drop.